ebidozi m n'oge.
To try to take this case up with you, they wouldn't be able to.
One of the issues we consider is what we call personal jurisdiction, and Nigeria would have to be one of the countries that has filed the declaration for the case to be referred to us by NGOs or individuals, the other way of referring the case to the court is through the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. The possibility of a state referring a case against another state is very remote. It's very, very unlikely that a state would refer a case to the court against another state.
Because it wouldn't be in their interests, right?
Well,
if the accusation, I mean, in the case of the clashes in Biafra, if the state, as you say, is unlikely to bring this case up, and human rights groups and individuals are essentially not allowed to, because Nigeria is not one of those countries that allow it. So where does that leave us?
As I said, if the case was taken to the African Commission on Human Rights, because for case...
Would they be in a position to...
They would be, because all the African countries have ratified the African Charter. And the African Commission has been set up by the African Charter. And therefore, any case can be taken to the African Commission against any African state. Now, if the African Commission on Human Rights decides, in their wisdom, to refer the case to the court, then the court could deal with it. But personally, of course, I'm not aware of the issue you raised about Biafra. But certainly, if it was referred to the commission and the commission decided to either deal with it or refer it to the court, I think it could be addressed.
There are a number of other regional African courts throughout the continent, at least half a dozen. There's ecowas for West Africa. There's the Court for Commissar, East and Southern Africa. There's ECAS for Central Africa, SADC for Southern Africa. I could go on. How do these? What is the African court, your court, supposed to do that these courts cannot? And it does seem like there's too many courts.
Most of these courts were set up as integration courts to deal with issues that would arise within the process of economic and political integration. And the ECOWAS court, for example, has that mandate. In addition, it has a mandate on human rights. The East African Court of Justice, similar mandate. But I think it's important to realize that for the regional and international courts, they cannot handle all the cases that arise. And therefore, at the primary level, the national courts are very, very important. In the case of West Africa, a case can be taken to the national level or to the ECOWAS court. But there may also be cases that, specifically on issues of human rights, need to come to the African court, because the African court is specializing on one particular issue, which is human rights, whereas ECOWAS has a much wider mandate. And therefore, I would not agree with the assertion that there are too many courts on the continent. When you look at it from the perspective of the mandate each of these courts has.
How does the court maintain judicial independence if it is essentially seen to be at the mercy of member states and the power that they are willing, or as the case may be, not willing to give up?
I'm not sure I understand how the independence of the court is affected in any way by...
Well, let me put it another way. How is the court able to enforce many of these decisions if it needs the cooperation of the member states every time?
Let me maybe look at it this way, that any international court that you can think of, talk of, for example, the International Criminal Court. it is funded by the state parties, and it requires the cooperation of states, even to, for example, arrest individuals. The International Court of Justice is funded by member states. So it's so most of the international courts and regional courts are based on the same concept, that you are funded by member states, but at the same time you have independence and impartiality ensured through the founding instrument. And at the national level, for example, judges are paid for by government, but they are independent. And therefore, and independence is something very, very important for judges. I think, I can't think of a judge that would agree that their independence as a judge and the ability to make independent decisions can be subject to any other thing. You look at the law, you look at the facts, that's it.
Justice Ben Kyoko, thank you very much for talking to Al Jazeera.
Thank you, Hassan.